Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're hearing me from, to our dear audience and all the speakers. The center, my name is Michael Abu. I'm a legal practitioner, and in the Center of Community Law, Community and Oceanic Law, I serve as the Director, Legal and Policy Development. So the center conducted a poll and some questions. We generated some questions from the poll, and we're going to be throwing the questions out to our panelists for them to discuss and for us to gain insight as to what is happening in ECOWAS and how to move ECOWAS forward. On the 28th of May, 2025, ECOWAS is going to be 50 years old. We want to understand what impact has ECOWAS really achieved its main goals and aspiration as it was at the time of inception. Please, for our audience, if you have any question, do well to send it to the Q&A part. So for this evening, I'm going to be starting with our first speaker, Professor Chidi Anselm Odinkalu. The first question is for you, sir. Prof, I don't know if you're still with us.
I'm not against you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, the first question goes like this. ECOWAS will soon mark its 50th anniversary. Based on citizens' responses, do you believe it has achieved its founding objectives? Why or why not? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question for me? Because I do have a hard stop in about 10 minutes. I may be able to stretch it for 2-3 minutes, but I have to transition to another gathering and another meeting, which is a disciplinary hearing in a university. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I still have 2 more questions for you, sir. This is on general effectiveness of ECOWAS. Then I have 1 question for you with respect to the economic integration and trade. And the last question is on peace and security. So I'll go to the second question. Now, the second question goes as, while 49% of our respondents agree that ECOWAS has improved trade, barriers such as corruption, high tariffs, and lack of infrastructure still persist. What policy change or structural reforms could improve regional trade efficiency? So that's the question on economic integration and trade. Then lastly, on peace and security, 56% of our respondents believe ECOWAS has contributed to peace and stability. Yet, effectiveness in addressing terrorism and transnational crime remains debated. How can ECOWAS strengthen its regional security strategies? So that is the last question for you, Prof. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. If I may, these are all within one ballpark, which is the effectiveness of ECOWAS in attaining its goals. And we've heard all of those. I think I summarized them. First, the economic dimension. Second, the peace and security dimension or collective security dimension. And the third is the governance dimension, including human rights and dispute resolution dimension, which his lordship spoke to. Now, how effective has ECOWAS been with the attainment of its founding goals? The founding goals of ECOWAS were dictated by economic imperatives. And actually, if you just did the economic history at the time, what was the matter? You had the global energy crisis, and it was bankrupting West African countries. Nigeria was making a lot of money out of it, and so it was easy for Nigeria to tell the other West African countries. That was for those whose memories go that far back. That was the time when Nigeria's president was telling the world that our problem was not money, but how to spend it. All right, and as a result, Nigeria was able to persuade corral the West African countries basically into that arrangement with some minimal guarantees as to the liquidity of Nigeria to be able to bear some of the burdens of regional integration, and therefore address the compensation principle in regional integration. I don't have the time to explain the compensation principle here now, but in terms of broad principles, I think it's fair to say that ECOWAS has done considerable work in creating a framework for advancing the goals of regional integration in West Africa. There's a West African passport, free movement of persons, free movement of goods and services by and large, and free movement of persons actually has improved a heck of a lot. You can travel around the region with minimal, relatively no visa, certainly. Although if you're Nigerian entering Cotonou, they will collect bribes from you, and I'll get to that in a moment. And it's the same thing in Togo. But that said, broadly speaking, if you left aside the issue of bribery, then you're going to get stopped at the border just because you're a foreigner. The only thing is the people whom you meet there see it as an opportunity to extort money out of you. Okay, so the effectiveness issue, the volume of regional trade has improved. Entreport trade has also improved. That is transshipment trade, and the Gambia, for instance, specializes in transshipment trade. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that that has happened. It's also the case that there are structural issues, and part of that is that in much of West Africa, citizenship is largely informalized. Colonialism first criminalized African enterprise. Post-colony, that criminalization has been transformed into informalization of African trade. Now, and one of my hobbies is actually crossing African borders. All right. And what you will notice, for instance, is that if you can go from, say, Lagos to Banjul or Dakar by road, there are two prices. If you have a passport, you have one price. If you don't have a passport, you can still go, but you have a different price. And the drivers will make sure you get through and you come back. But the price is higher. Okay? Now, and anyone who, I've traveled that by road, so I'm not telling you fiction here. All right? The informalization of African enterprise, I think, is at the heart of the challenges. And part of that is the informalization of national identity and citizenship. And the UN Economic Commission for Africa estimates that informal trade accounts for cross-border and neighborhood trade in the region of between 30 and 70%. Essentially, that most of our trade is still informal, but that reflects not on ECOWAS, it's on the state of West African states. National infrastructure that has failed to integrate citizens formally and appropriately into arrangements for governance of identity and transactionality and transactional life and agency. I do think we've got to address that at the respective levels of the respective countries. And that clearly is a governance challenge at the national level and an integration challenge and the coexistence challenge at the national level. That said, the ECOWAS has also done some interesting things in peace and security. ECOMOG was a game changer in international peace and security. And to the extent that it was because of ECOWAS that you had Agenda for Peace. And Agenda for Peace, basically, by Kofi Annan, deconcentrated peace and security in international relations so that it recognized the role of regional agencies and formalized it in their relationship with the United Nations in relation to peace and security under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter. That was essentially a major contribution by ECOWAS to international law. And that's major. I don't think anybody should at all disregard that or underestimate its impact. That said, ECOWAS has, and as Mr. Ejime said, ECOWAS has not adapted, has not been as nimble as it could be in relation to the changes to the threats that affect it, and that relates to the mid-Sahel transformation of the threats in the region, Islamist violence, terrorist violence, and how to address that. And part of the challenge that the states point out in their as to why they left is that ECOWAS has not been present for them as they've grappled with the challenges of Islamist violence. That's not entirely accurate. ECOWAS has actually made some money available, but ECOWAS could have done more that it has not been able to do. And that's the crisis of adaptation, which I think Mr. Ejime accurately talked about. And I'd like to end by saying the peace and security challenge has mutated. And ECOWAS as an institution has not evolved as quickly and as nimbly with it. At the moment, if you asked me, I mean, the Niger situation has been very poorly handled. I couldn't say it enough, but we could have a totally different conversation about what failed in that, but it was an abysmal failure at different levels of international law, of leadership skills, of ECOWAS norms, of management of ECOWAS. And if you ask me, the current leadership of ECOWAS is actually short on skill and imagination. And I say that with profound respect to them, no intention to disrespect them. But if you're going to be running an institution like ECOWAS, the first thing you do is acquaint yourself with the norms of the region, norms of African Union, and norms of international law. Golden Okumbo here asks the question about what is relevant there. And I've responded in the chat. Again, I don't have the time to go in depth into that. I'm happy to take questions for people to email me or WhatsApp me questions, and I'm happy to engage with those, but I really have to go because I'm chairing a code of conduct hearing that may result in some people not being able to graduate, and so I've got to take that seriously. I apologize, but I'm grateful to my brother, Professor Enabulele, and the team at the center for this opportunity. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Back at the, that's okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, right about now, we're going to be taking a question from the chat box. I want to apologize for exceeding the time. Please, we're going to take a question, and this question goes to Honorable Justice Richmond Osei-Hwere. My Lord, I don't know if you're still with us, sir.
Yes, I'm still with you. And this Osei-Hwere is a mouthful, even for Ghanaians. So I understand.
Thank you, sir.
Osei-Hwere, yes. I'm with you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay,
yes.
The next question is ECOWAS, apart from discussion as this, appears to be relegated to history. There are many factors working against the organization, top of which is governance and the pull by post-colonial forces. How would ECOWAS reposition itself to achieve tangible objectives which would be felt by citizens of member countries?
Yes, thank you once again. Yes, and for ECOWAS to reposition itself, I think there is the need for ECOWAS to have a rethink of some of its objectives, and to ensure that the objectives align with the desires, the objectives of the member states. You know, that is very important. It is only when that happens that they can bring along the member states. Okay, so apart from aligning the objectives, it is also, I think I've spoken about it already, the political will of the leaders of member states to take the ECOWAS legal order seriously, to take the protocols, the conventions, and the agreements seriously enough so that they can incorporate it into as part of their domestic law. Because enforcement is very important. Most of the challenges we talk about come down to the lack of enforcement, of the legal framework relating to ECOWAS. So yes, going forward, I think we need to take these things seriously. And it is obvious from the survey report that most people, most of the citizens are not aware of the objectives of ECOWAS. You know, the survey concentrated, if my understanding is right, on the educated people, those with master's degrees, university graduates, and so on and so forth. Even for them, about 90% had heard of ECOWAS, all right, but over 10% were not familiar with the objectives of ECOWAS. But let me tell you, when you speak to the ordinary person, they know ECOWAS just by name. They cannot mention the role of ECOWAS, the objectives of ECOWAS. So we need to target those people. There must be an intentional advocacy drive aimed at bringing the entire populace along, so that if the populace are interested, it's ECOWAS for the people. If we bring them on board and they become interested in the activities of ECOWAS, yes, that in itself will they will put pressure on their governments to take the objectives of ECOWAS seriously. So I think that is something we should look at. Public education. Public education is very important. We should not just target the elites, but the ordinary people who outnumber the well-educated people. So I think that should be a strategy, bringing the people along, letting them understand the benefits of ECOWAS, the fact that we are stronger when we are together. We are stronger when we trade together. We are stronger when we get to understand each other's culture. We are stronger when we are sociologically linked to each other. I think it's important for us to focus on that. And we can do so by bringing the people along. And that comes to the question of public education. Public education. We should not concentrate the activities of ECOWAS only at the national capitals, but the nooks and crannies of the entire society. We must tell them what ECOWAS is. We must tell them the advantages of ECOWAS, the fact that when we come together, there is a broader market for goods and services, and so on and so forth. So in short, I think going forward, we need to ensure that the objectives of ECOWAS are aligned with the policy framework and the legislative framework of the various member states. And also we need to bring the people along so that they can put pressure on their government to take the activities of ECOWAS seriously. I think that's my response, my short response to that. Yes, Michael. Yes, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next question is going to Mr. Paul Ejime. Mr. Paul Ejime, thank you for that erudite presentation. Our question for you is from Democracy and Governance. Okay, our respondent wants to know, transparency and accountability were flagged as major concerns, with 64% prioritizing governance and corruption reforms. How can ECOWAS strengthen institutional integrity and regain public trust?
Okay, is that all?
Okay, that's one of your questions, sir.
Okay, so can I, or you want to give me more so that I take them all along, or I just answer this one?
Oh, okay, I can give you two more, sir.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yes, so we have them. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. So the second question is, why do you think military coups have resurged in West Africa despite ECOWAS normative framework? That's the second question.
Okay.
Then the last question is, only 21% of our respondents find ECOWAS effective in addressing unemployment, education, and healthcare. What targeted intervention should ECOWAS implement to improve outcome in these sectors?
Okay, let me start with question number 2. Which is very short. It's talking about why we have coups, military coups, in spite of the ECOWAS, all the normative framework and then instruments for avoiding the coups. Well, the point is that when you make positive change impossible, you have to deal with violent change. And that is what has happened. And it's, like I said, the military coups are just, the symbol or a follow-up to what has been happening. The unconstitutional change of governments by civilians. In other words, the civilian coups, constitutional coups, electoral law, ballot box coups, and so on and so forth. And then violations that the ECOWAS, like his lordship said, the political will is no longer there to address, to talk to the ECOWAS heads, because they are the ones now running the show, to talk to themselves. If somebody, for instance, in Togo, let me give you an Togo on the 3rd of this month, the president there completed what you will call a very controversial change of the constitution, moving the country from presidential to parliamentary, and then changing positions. He used to be president. He's now president of the Council of Ministers, and does not have an unlimited term limit. There's no term limit. And now there is a president of the Republic who will serve for seven years. But this for somebody who has been there since 2005, when he literally seized power with the support of the military following the death of his father. I'm talking about Ejime. So these are some, and what has ECOWAS done? Practically nothing. ECOWAS has really put itself in a very difficult position that it didn't do anything when that has happened. So you will now see that if ECOWAS is unable to deal with that, this civilian kind of thing, why do you now, when it's a military coup and then everybody jumping up and down? There should be a rule of the thumb for everything. If the civilians violate the protocol, there should be punishment. There should be consequences. Not only when the military, takes power, that then you begin to run up and down, condemn them. And that is not to justify military takeovers. Okay, so it has the military incursion have become rampant or increasing. You probably will say, what 4 countries are there now? Which one is next? I am not advocating military takeovers, but I remember in a television program when it was only Mali, I had warned that, listen, and like other analysts, that if care is not taken, we are likely going to see more. We'll see more military incursions. And what has happened within 3 years or so, from 2020 to 2023, we now have four states that are in that realm. So ECOWAS needs to use its instruments. It's not question. Not some people are talking about change amendment to or bring new rules. The justice mentioned it. You have not fully implemented what you have. You have not enforced what you have. why will ECOWAS go and start thinking about using military force to go and remove the military coupists in Niger, when they have not used all the other? ECOWAS has in the protocol of 2001 on the government and democracy and good governance. You have other tools like sending emissary, sending good offices, sending military. If these are military people, why didn't you send military delegation to go and talk to them? It's there in the protocol, but they didn't use it. The heads of state jumped into the fray and now talked about going to mobilize forces to go. And why would you want to invade your member? Let's make a decision between intervention when a country invites you. It is not the same thing as ECOMOG when Liberia and Sierra Leone invited ECOWAS to intervene. Okay? This is not the issue. So why are you going to put so many lives in danger? Anyway, let me exit. So if I have answered that question, it is because ECOWAS has not addressed the civilian coups. That is why military coups are happening. And then you talked about 25%. Can you please repeat 25% of I didn't get that question, please. The third question.
Okay. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay. The question says only 25% of our respondents have benefited from the ECOWAS free movement protocol. Okay. How can ECOWAS better ensure that its policies translate into tangible benefits for citizens? Okay.
And then the other one is, okay, let me tackle this one. Here, 25%. In fact, you are even magnanimous. And I will also please suggest, this is a suggestion to those who carried out this survey. I think the sample size is rather too small and then given the fact that we have also seen that you address mainly the post people with the professors and the high ups. What about the ordinary citizens? And they make up the majority of the community citizens. So I know that there will be, maybe there were issues about challenges about terms of reference or logistics or whatever. But I know that there will be a follow-up. I would like to see an expansion to the size, sample size. I mean, from 1,000, in a community of 400 million. And given that there is no dichotomy between those who are there and those countries that have exited. So you said it was 5 to 1 that you did. I think there is always need for, try to expand that. So 25% is, I say, you are magnanimous, liberal, because if you ask if you got a larger, sample size, you'll be shocked that the awareness will shrink, and that is what ECOWAS is suffering from, because many countries they just when it is, I think they are interested in getting positions when it for ECOWAS. Do you know that at one point they had 15 commissioners in ECOWAS when they started with 7 or so? They at one
Mr. Paul, do we still have you? Mr. Paul, do we still have you? I think it's a network glitch.
Michael, go to Justice before.
Okay. Honorable Justice Richmond, please, we'll have a question for you. I think I will give you the last 2 questions we'll have for you, sir. Are you with us, sir? My lord, are you still with us?
Yes,
Okay.
please. I'm here. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
I'm with
So
you.
your
Yes.
second question, I will give both the second and the last question. Okay. So the second question goes thus.
Yes.
Why do you what do you think accounts for why the court is the most recognized institution of ECOWAS? That's the ECOWAS Community
Okay.
Court of Justice. That's your second
Yes.
question. And the last question is on democracy and governance. Okay. So it goes thus. Are ECOWAS enforcement mechanisms such as sanctions, which you talked about, and suspensions effective deterrent, or do they risk harming ordinary citizens more than the political elites? Mr. Paul, please, we'll come back to you.
Okay, no problem. I think that was
Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you, Michael, once again.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
So I'll deal with the ECOWAS court first. Why the
Yes, sir.
ECOWAS court is the most popular among the institutions. Of course, I would
Exactly.
say that it's the most recognized court within the sub-region, arguably. Okay, and then the results show, as at 28th February 2025, a total of 727 cases had been filed with the ECOWAS court since it began full operation in 2001. In fact, in 2001, there was no human rights jurisdiction. So it was all about, settling questions, disputes among the institutions, among other things. The jurisdiction was quite narrow. It was from 2005 that the human rights jurisdiction was also added to the jurisdiction of the ECOWAS court. So since 2001, there's been 727 cases. And out of these cases, the court has delivered 145 judgments, 145 rulings, 454 judgments, 72 post-judgment decisions, and 8 advisory opinions, bringing the total number of decisions to 649 out of 727. And by all standards, this is no mean an achievement when you do a comparative study between the ECOWAS courts and other regional courts. What accounts for the popularity? I think I've mentioned it already. The rules of procedure itself. Of course, because it's a human rights court. Yes, in West Africa, human rights is a big issue within our communities, so on. There are human rights violations here and there between government, the government and the governed. There are human rights violations here and there. And the ECOWAS court has their rules of procedure is such that you need not exhaust the domestic remedy before you can go to the ECOWAS court. All right. So that has bolstered the relevance of the ECOWAS court. So if there is a human rights violation, there are many cases to that effect. When there was an internet shutdown in Togo, all right, there was an action against the government of Togo by Amnesty International. And the Human Rights Court, the ECOWAS court came out boldly and made a pronouncement that even though the right to access the internet is not a fundamental right, it gives citizens the right to access information and journalists the right to also broadcast. So the court held that, yes, that violation, the shutting down of the internet, violated the right to access information. That was a landmark decision of the court, and it even won the court an international award. So the activities of the court itself has bolstered its popularity. And the fact that you need not prove locus standi before you could be heard. It can be very, litigation is very expensive as lawyers, Many people are deterred going to the court because they cannot afford. So if you have vibrant NGOs, civil society organizations, groups that can champion the cause of communities, community members need not contribute to it. They can take it upon themselves to go to the ECOWAS court. So that is what has been happening. When you look at most of the cases, the reported cases, they were all championed by NGOs and other groups. All right. So the activities of the ECOWAS court itself, the stakeholder engagement of the court, they've touched base with all the relevant stakeholders throughout in all the member states. They go there, they organize outreach programs, they meet lawyers, they meet the judicial service staff, officers, they meet parliamentarians, all sort of people across board. So through their engagement with citizens, they've been able to bolster the popularity of the ECOWAS court. So yes, it is not for nothing that the ECOWAS court is seen as the most recognized of all the institutions. Their activities and the fact that, of course, the court exists to champion to vindicate the rights of others. So naturally, there will be that attraction towards the courts. It's just natural, even domestically. When you conduct a survey about government services, the court is one of the top services that people are aware of. So yes, that accounts for the popularity of the ECOWAS court. And the second question, can you remind me of the second question once again?
Oh, okay, sir. It is on
sanctions.
So the question is, are ECOWAS enforcement mechanisms, such as sanctions and suspensions, effective deterrents, or do they risk harming ordinary citizens more than the political elites? So you made mention of enforcement and sanctions during your presentation.
Yes. So yeah, the simple answer is they are not effective enough. They are not. The sanctions and the suspensions of member states are not effective enough. I think it's when you do so, the sanctions do not harm the elite, so to speak. When there is an embargo, okay, when it comes to trade and other collaborations among the member states, it is those at the lower income brackets, they suffer most. The elite can find their way around it. They have the wherewithal to cushion the harmful effect of any sanction. But for ordinary people in the society, okay, if due to sanctions, there has been a remarkable increase in prices of particular goods, and those goods are consumed, maybe medicinal products. They are not produced in their country. It has to be shipped in through the free trade policy of ECOWAS. It has to be shipped in, transported from Nigeria to Ghana. If there is lack of such products, prices will automatically shoot up, and it takes the ordinary person who will suffer. For the elite, they have a way of cushioning all those things. So I think the sanction and suspension regime affects. So we can think about alternative means through dialogue. Okay, Mr. Ejime spoke extensively about that. Having dialogue with member states, with the heads of member states. I think that should be the way forward. It shouldn't always be about sanctions or suspension, because it is the citizens who suffer. So we must endeavor to pursue the path of dialogue instead of imposing sanctions on member states. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable Justice Richmond.
Osei-Hwere.
We really appreciate your time with us. Thank you. So we'll go over. Hello, Mr. Paul, are you still with us? Mr. Paul, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry about the break.
Oh, okay, sir, please.
Yes, I am.
It's fine. It's fine.
I am.
If you can give us your concluding thoughts on the last question with respect to the 25% respondents that have benefited from the ECOWAS free movement.
Okay, I will do just that, and then are you ending now? You said my last thought, or is this ending, or we have time to give our final words? Just
okay. You can also give your final words here. Yes. Okay,
I think yeah, because there's so much to talk about in 50 years. It's not 50 days or 50 months. ECOWAS, I will say, has not been credited enough for what it has done, because actually the tendency is to, even when you do 99% and 1% that is negative, people tend to focus on that, and that is what it's not just a problem of ECOWAS. I think it's a national, it's a human issue. But on the 25%, I have said so that it is so because of the lack, the deficiency of leadership from the national level, then which is now elevated to the regional level. Because an organization is as strong as its weakest member. You do not expect members to give what they do not have at home domestically. I think you understand that. So if at the national level, ECOWAS is not doing, the members are not doing what they should do in all the areas, governance, economic, trade, or domestication of ECOWAS protocols. Because ECOWAS was set up, and it was said in the treaty that you have to harmonize. That focus on harmonization is not, that aspect has not really been maximized. So it is when it is done that you will now see that all the stakeholders involved, for instance, in the free movement, the customs, immigration, heads of state, and the traders themselves, even the citizens. So there is this gap, information gap that exists, and then the gap between policy and then implementation. I think that is why you have this low level. It could even be lower when you get to talk about other citizens that are not within the bracket that you have mentioned. And then the other issue, what is the way forward? Let me go there quickly. One is that ECOWAS should now, beginning with looking at its recruitment system. At the commission, I speak because I have an idea, having worked there, and then because what is happening is that many people, there is that low knowledge, knowledge deficiency. Many people do not know, except when there is an election or when the heads of states are meeting, or court. I think, by the way, Honorable Justice, in some fora, I have made a suggestion that the court will be among the institutions that will be, celebrated or recognized during this 50 years anniversary, because it stands out as one of those institutions that have done very well, along with the citizens that can be acknowledged. So this is the issue, and there is the communication strategy. ECOWAS is not communicating its work. It's not communicating with there is no handshake between those who are the policymakers and those who are the implementers, and then the citizens. I think the communication strategy, I know they have the Directorate of Communication, but it is not as effective as it should be. And there is also the provision under the protocol that requires member states to do the sensitization and mobilization around ECOWAS. They are not doing that. So let us not only blame ECOWAS. The member states themselves have a duty, under the protocol they have signed, to tell their citizens about what ECOWAS is doing. They are not doing that enough. And ECOWAS as an institution is also handicapped because of, Professor Chidi said it, the skill and imagination is lacking. And then I talked about how they can change the recruitment. For instance, the AU that is there, that is more or less copying much of what ECOWAS is doing. This AU that we have, which is a successor of the OAU, started in 2000 or 2002. Much of what they are doing, they learned, they borrowed from ECOWAS. So what can they do? ECOWAS can also borrow good best practices, like advertising is for the head of the commission, the president of the commission. This zoning issue, yes, you can zone, but you advertise it so that the best people can apply, not just the government given names, and then from there you pick. Because what has happened now is that I'm not making this comment because of any particular person, but in general, what has happened is that when the governments nominate people and put them there, they seem to be beholden to the government. Just find staff thinking more about their nation instead of thinking with some national flair. That you are now at the region, you are now a regional citizen. You are not, of course, you cannot change your citizenship, but you have to act with some fairness, detaching yourself from your nation of origin. But what is happening now, because of that zoning, what is it comes as to meet up, for instance, all the commissioners and all that are not necessarily those that will be the best. I'm not saying this to pull down anybody, but I think in looking at AU and other places, this is what can be done to make it more transparent, to make it more, to bring quality assurance, to make sure that the best, people with the competence and then the character that can question. For now, for instance, what we're having is that the heads of state, they have hijacked ECOWAS, and the technocrats, the commissioners cannot even make much input. That is what is happening. Unlike in the past, I have worked under president of the commission that will take decisions that are very far-reaching. For instance, one of them is that in 2009, former President Tanja of Niger had wanted to dissolve the parliament, but ECOWAS commission took decision to say no, you cannot do that. But now what is happening? Two governments, Togo, Guinea-Bissau has dissolved the constitution, suspended the constitution, dissolved parliament, and court is not working, and the electoral commission is not working. And ECOWAS is, by the way, when ECOWAS sent a mission to the place, the president threatened to expel the commission, the ECOWAS and UN delegation. And up to now, nothing has happened. So unlike in the past, and like I was saying, there were heads of presidents of the commission that will take decisions that have, had put ECOWAS in a very, a very good light. I come again in 2011 when former President Ejime was going to hold an election. The ECOWAS Commission decided not to send observers, because after they had done the fact-finding mission, they realized that there was no level playing field, and they went ahead. They did not recognize the outcome of that election until Yahya Jammeh now held another one in the AU and others supported her, but ECOWAS said no. But which now allowed Yahya Jammeh to hold another election in 2016. And what happened? He wanted to do what he has always done. But it was the same ECOWAS that facilitated with the international community, made sure that Yahya Jammeh was escorted into exile in now Equatorial Guinea. So there are the instruments are there. Let them work with it. Let them harmonize. Let them domesticate. Let them have the power, the willpower, political will to say no to some of these to civilian coup, so that you'll also have the moral justification to denounce military coups. So when all this is done, it's not. I don't see. It's not a walk in the park, but it will take. There are, immediate actions that can be taken, mid-term and then long-term, to be able to get ECOWAS to where it even beyond expectations or beyond what it has achieved, because it has achieved so much, and then we cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. But while we are commending ECOWAS for doing what it's doing and what it has done, we also have a duty to call on ECOWAS and the people that are there to know that what they are doing is on behalf of the citizens, the 400 million. It's not about the commissioners or ECOWAS staff or heads of state. It has to be the ECOWAS of people, not ECOWAS of states or ECOWAS of heads of state. Let me stop here and thank you for the time. Are you there, or have I been speaking with myself?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Thank you so much for this erudite explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it's now time for us to invite a special thanks to all our panelists. It's now time for me to invite the Executive Director of Center for Community and Oceanic Law, Professor Amos Enabulele, for his final words. Prof, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Before I do that, I think I should ask His Lordship if he has a final word to give.
Yes, as if you are reading my thoughts. Yeah, I think I want to add this. I mean, if we can start a conversation on the possibility of electing the ECOWAS members of parliament. It may be a lofty idea, it may be expensive, but I think, in my thinking, that may also boost the popularity of ECOWAS and its objectives within the member states. So if people, maybe through the proportional representation system, instead of elected members of parliament, who some of them are selected to serve as ECOWAS members of parliament, if there could be direct elections through the campaigns and so on, that will also bring the citizens on board. I think that's just my final thought. So maybe we can think about that option too and see if that is feasible. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for the privilege, Professor Enabulele, and I thank you and I congratulate you for your good work, you and your team. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to participate in this this panel discussion. I'm so grateful, and it's nice meeting you, Mr. Paul Ejime. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing the platform with you. The other thing, let me also talk about you, the jurists. I will, in the same breath, recommend that at the courts, that countries will have to up the scale in the implementation of the court decision. And there has to be, I know it was recommended that there could be sanction for for non-compliance.
For non-compliance,
yes. Whether it is financial or whatever, but at least if that is also injected in the system, it can also help because the court is doing the court is the last hope.
It's the last hope, yes, but we always come under the lack of domestication argument. I think Professor Nabulele, belongs to that school of thought. But there is that school of thought which also says that the court can go around it, even though there's been no formal domestication of a protocol. We can still enforce it. We can even invoke some constitutional provisions. So thanks for the suggestion.
You have the weapon to do that.
To do that, yes.
All right,
thank you very much. That's a wonderful intervention. Thank you
so very much.
Okay, Prof. Thank you. So I yield to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. You know, as Mr. Ejime said, ECOWAS has existed for 50 years. So it's a conversation that could be had within 2 hours. There's so much to talk about. If you want to talk about just the court, it will take us such a long time to do that. And there were a few things that were said in the course of this conversation, but there's the consensus that ECOWAS seems to be an elitist organization. It's not actually getting down to the grassroots, you know? So it doesn't seem as if the citizens are at the forefront of what ECOWAS is doing. For instance, with this exit of these 3 states, we watched in the center until around January 27th, we discovered that ECOWAS was not making any move to secure the members that were in these other 3 states that had moved there by reason of the free movement protocol. We had to bring a case in the court, you know, at the ECOWAS court, which is pending at the moment. You know, that case had to come in not before 29th, so that ECOWAS court can have jurisdiction over the entire states, over all the states. So only Nigeria, as at now, has filed a response. The other states and the commission have not. We are watching to see how the court will decide that case. But I think the citizens, because ECOWAS, if you lived in the EU, for instance, every child, if you live in any EU country, you don't need to be told about the EU, because the EU is efficient, it's effective, and touches to the grassroots. So ECOWAS needs to begin to do that. Even ECOWAS engagement, we tried as much as possible to get somebody from the commission to participate in this, but they just ignore. They're not interested. They don't care about what the citizens are doing. They're just interested in that elitist situation. And we citizens, we need to begin to interrogate what they're doing, because whatever is happening in ECOWAS is happening in the name of citizens. Without ECOWAS citizens, you have ECOWAS. I'll just speak to a few questions that are here. One from Mr. Paul Egboke, who talks about, which is also what we are talking about, how ECOWAS can, he said many forces work against ECOWAS at the top, top of which is governance. Yes, governance and post-colonial forces, they are there, but the problem, real situation is that citizens are not given their right of place. It is citizens are not participating, are not allowed to participate as it should be. ECOWAS is not giving the kind of recognition that they should give to citizens, you know, to enable citizens participate in this affair. If you look at the 3 states that exited, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, you see that their citizens did not seem to miss ECOWAS. They were rightly behind their government, rightly or wrongly. So I think that is a conversation that needs to be had. ECOWAS needs to step down from this high horse and begin to interact with citizens so that things can be better. The court is doing such a wonderful work. You know, it could be anywhere, file a case in the court, you don't have to pay, and the court is so efficient, and that's why in the survey, a lot of people seem to know the court better than any other organization of any other institution of ECOWAS. And the last question I will just speak to was raised by Tony Jaja. I would just say that this has to do with the issue of domestication has been raised. You know, ECOWAS is supposed to be a supranational organization, but we do know from my last spoke to dualism and all of that, to know that issue is there. But I think that if it is not domesticated within the states, it's going to be difficult, you know. But apart from domestication, ECOWAS can actually, because this ECOWAS parliament we are talking about, just as the ECOWAS court has mentioned on several occasions that, look, we are not bound by your constitution. We have international law to deal with. So I think that's a charge that ECOWAS Commission should take upon itself, to see how the parliament can begin to function outside of this selectivity that we are finding from people sometimes whose elections within their nationality is even questionable. Then there are people that are now promoted to go to ECOWAS parliament. So it seems, and we do know that you cannot do something or nothing and expect it to stand. So on this note, I want to say a big thank you to all our guests. I'll start with that. Thank you for spending so long a time with us. We started since 5 o'clock and we are still here. You stayed with us. We are grateful. I want to say a big thank you to our panelists, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who had to exit so quickly because he had other things to do. I want to say a big thank you to my Lord, Justice. I'm going to learn that.
Yes.
I want to say
Osei-Hwere, Richmond Osei-Hwere. Yeah.
You're always prepared when we call. When it comes to ECOWAS, you're always there. I want to say a big thank you to you. I know that you got a lot of work to do, and yet you give us time whenever we ask. Thank you so much. And to my friend and brother, Paul Ejime, I want to say a big thank you. You're such a wonderful and special man. Thank you so much for the things that you do. Thank you for all that you do. And we want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate all our guests today. This was supposed to be a 2-day event, but we have to cut it to 1 day. And we hope you have found it's been worth your while. It's a conversation that we are taking forward. We'll be inviting you in the coming months, because we're taking this forward. There will be another survey, and we'll have time for discussions that we're going to be engaging in. So I want to say thank you to all of you, and to the anchors, Michael and Esther. Thank you so very much. You've done a wonderful work today. Thank you so much. And on this note, I think, except if Esther or Michael has something to say, I think we'll be calling it a wrap here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, your lordship. So I hope we'll not meet in court. We'll meet outside the court.
Definitely, yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
And my brother Ambrose, Esther, and Michael, you've all been fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's keep the fire burning. At times, some people will ask you, why are you bothered? Why do you? Because it's almost a thankless kind of thing to talk about ECOWAS, because not many people are interested. Meanwhile, it affects all of us. So let's keep going. If those people here now do not ask questions, generations unborn will be answerable. They will say, "What did you do when ECOWAS this was disintegrated under your watch?" We should be able to say something or do something or write something, at least to make sure that we contributed our quota. Because if we don't do anything, I think that brings us to the quotation by, I think it's Albert Einstein, that the world is wicked or it's not doing well today, not because it's evil, not because of those who are doing evil, but because of those who are quiet, who are silent when evil is being perpetrated. On that note, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Esther. Yes.
Okay, let's
Thank you,
have a
Prof.
day.
Thank you, my lord.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.